When you think of New Zealand, what pops into your mind first? Maybe it's the Lord of the Rings landscapes. Endless mountains, glowing fjords, rolling green hills filled with more sheep than people. But here's the twist. New Zealand isn't just a movie set or an outdoor playground. It's one of the strangest, wildest bird kingdoms on Earth. This island nation drifted away from the rest of the world millions of years ago, and in its isolation, evolution went absolutely off the rails. Birds here became giants. Some forgot how to fly. Others learned to sing like flutes, laugh like people, or chew apart your backpack just for fun. From the nocturnal Kiwi, a national icon that looks like a feathered hedgehog, to the Ki, the world's smartest and cheekiest mountain parrot, to the Kakapo, a giant flightless nocturnal parrot that's basically a living Muppet. These birds are as weird as they are wonderful. Some of them were once thought extinct, some are still critically endangered, and some are so common, New Zealanders barely notice them. But visitors lose their minds when they appear. So grab your binoculars, maybe a rain jacket, and a good sense of humor. Because we're about to count down 15 strange birds of New Zealand you won't believe actually exist. This is not Middle-earth. This is the real magic of Aotearoa. If New Zealand had a mascot, it wouldn't be a sheep or a silver fern. It would be this, the Kiwi, a bird so iconic that New Zealanders literally call themselves Kiwis. But here's the wild part. This national symbol doesn't fly, doesn't sing like other birds, and honestly looks more like a walking puffball with a beak than a typical bird. Kiwis are nocturnal, flightless, and unlike anything else on Earth. Their wings are tiny, hidden under shaggy, hair-like feathers that feel more like fur. Instead of soaring in the skies, they shuffle through the undergrowth at night, using their long, sensitive beaks to probe the soil for worms, insects, and grubs. In fact, they're the only birds in the world with nostrils at the tip of their beak. Evolution's way of giving them a built-in metal detector for food. And size? They vary. From the little spotted kiwi, about the size of a chicken, to the great spotted kiwi, closer to a small turkey. All 5 species are unique to New Zealand, each tied to a particular region or island. Fun fact, kiwi eggs are enormous. A single egg can be up to 20% of the female's body weight, the largest egg-to-body ratio of any bird. Imagine a human giving birth to a toddler. Yeah, ouch. Culturally, the kiwi is more than just a bird. It's a national treasure, protected fiercely, featured on currency, and even in military insignia. But it's also vulnerable, threatened by habitat loss and introduced predators like stoats and cats. Today, massive conservation efforts, from predator-free sanctuaries to dedicated breeding programs, are fighting to secure their future. Spotting a kiwi in the wild is a rare, almost mystical experience. You're more likely to hear one first, a sharp, high-pitched call echoing through the forest at night. Seeing one shuffle into view under moonlight feels like stepping back into a prehistoric world. The kiwi isn't just a bird. It's New Zealand's beating heart. Small, strange, stubborn, and unforgettable. If the kiwi is New Zealand's quiet, mysterious national symbol, then the kia is its troublemaker cousin. Meet the world's only Alpine Parrot, a brilliant, cheeky, green-feathered daredevil that calls the snowy peaks of the South Island home. Kia are famous for 2 things, their intelligence and their mischief. Scientists rank them among the smartest birds on the planet, capable of solving puzzles, using tools, and even working together to outsmart humans. Sounds impressive, right? Well, it's less impressive when a flock of key teams up to rip the rubber seals off your car doors at a ski resort. Yes, that happens. Their plumage is gorgeous up close, olive green with darker feather edges, blending perfectly with alpine forests and tussock grass. But when they spread their wings, flashes of fiery orange appear underneath, like a secret, colorful lining in a designer jacket. In flight, it's breathtaking. Diet-wise, kia are opportunists. They eat roots, berries, and insects, but they've also been caught raiding campsites, stealing sandwiches, and, no joke, flying off with someone's hiking boot. Their curiosity is endless. If it moves, shines, or zips, a ki wants to play with it. Fun fact, Kia are known to slide down snowy rooftops just for fun. Play isn't just entertainment for them, it's how they learn and bond as a group. Watching Kia interact is like watching a flock of toddlers hyped up on sugar. But their boldness hasn't always worked in their favor. For decades, Kia were persecuted by farmers who saw them as pests attacking sheep, a behavior later shown to be rare. Today, they're protected but still endangered, with only a few thousand left in the wild. Seeing a Kia in action is unforgettable. Imagine hiking through misty alpine valleys, hearing their loud laughing call, Kia, echo across the mountains, and then watching one swoop down to investigate your backpack. The Kia isn't just a bird. It's New Zealand's alpine prankster, mountain guardian, and feathered genius. Proof that sometimes the wildest creatures are also the most fun. If New Zealand's birds were characters in a fantasy saga, the Kakapo would be the ancient wizard, rare, strange, and rescued from the edge of extinction. This is no ordinary parrot. In fact, it breaks nearly every rule of parrothood. First, it can't fly at all. Instead, the Kakapo is a giant nocturnal, flightless parrot, the heaviest in the world, weighing up to 9 pounds. It waddles through the forest floor like a green-feathered hedgehog, using its strong legs to climb trees but never to take off. Its feathers are mossy green with mottled patterns that make it disappear into the undergrowth. Think camouflage cloak, but fluffy. Second, it's nocturnal. Unlike chatty daytime parrots, Kakapo are creatures of the night, emerging after dark to forage on fruits, seeds, and native plants. Their faces even resemble owls, giving rise to the nickname owl parrot. And third, its mating ritual is pure science fiction. During breeding season, males carve out shallow bowls in the forest floor and then produce an incredibly deep, booming call that can travel miles. It's like subwoofer bass thumping through the wilderness. Females follow the sound to choose a mate. Imagine speed dating, but with bass drops. But the real story of the Kakapo is survival. Once widespread across New Zealand, the species was nearly wiped out by habitat destruction and introduced predators like cats and stoats. By the 1990s, fewer than 50 birds remained. Conservationists stepped in with one of the most intensive rescue programs ever attempted, monitoring every individual, relocating them to predator-free islands, even hand-rearing chicks. Today, the Kakapo population has climbed past 250. Each bird has a name, a microchip, and a team of people rooting for its survival. In New Zealand, they're not just parrots, they're celebrities. Spotting one in the wild is next to impossible unless you're part of the conservation team. But just knowing they're out there, waddling through the night, booming their bass, refusing to vanish, feels like a victory for all of us. The Kakapo is proof that sometimes the strangest, most improbable creatures can be brought back from the brink. A living legend, a parrot that forgot how to fly, but refuses to die. Once upon a time, New Zealand scientists believed this bird was gone forever. The Takah, a massive flightless rail with vivid blue-green plumage, was officially declared extinct in the late 1800s. For decades, it lived only in museum drawers and old explorers' journals. But in 1948, in the remote Murchison Mountains of Fiordland, a small group of explorers stumbled upon something incredible, a living population of Takah. It was like finding a dinosaur grazing in your backyard. Suddenly, a bird thought lost to history had returned. Alive, awkward, and magnificent. Takah are big, really big. They can weigh up to 6 pounds and stand almost knee-high to an adult human. Their feathers shimmer in shades of deep blue and emerald green, with a massive red beak and sturdy legs built for a life on the ground. Forget flying. These birds march through alpine grasslands like feathered tanks. Their diet is surprisingly specialized. They feed mostly on tussock grasses, painstakingly stripping seeds and chewing the bases of stalks with that powerful bill. Watching a Takah eat looks a lot like someone snapping celery sticks all day long. Fun fact, they form strong pair bonds with males and females often sticking together for life. Both parents share the duty of raising chicks, which is one reason conservation programs have been so successful. Teamwork runs in their DNA. But survival hasn't been easy. Introduced predators and habitat loss push their numbers dangerously low. And even today, the global population is only around a few hundred. Thanks to heroic conservation, captive breeding, protected reserves, and intensive management, the Takah is once again spreading across New Zealand. Seeing one in the wild feels like stepping into an alternate reality. You're on a windswept alpine slope, the air sharp and clear, and suddenly this giant jewel-colored bird waddles out of the tussock. It doesn't run, it doesn't fly. It simply exists, proof that miracles can walk. The Takah isn't just a bird, it's a symbol of hope, a reminder that extinction doesn't always get the last word. If New Zealand's forests had a soundtrack, the tuawa would be the lead singer. Sleek, shimmering, and loud, this nectar-feeding bird is one of the most distinctive voices of Aotearoa. Part opera star, part beatboxer, part mischievous trickster. Visually, tuawa are stunning. At first glance, they look black, but catch the sunlight and suddenly their feathers burst into iridescent shades of green, blue, and bronze. Add a little white throat tuft, like a fluffy bow tie, and you've got one of the most stylish birds in the Southern Hemisphere. But it's the voice that makes the two legendary. Their song is a mix of crystal clear notes, rattles, clicks, and even wheezy coughs. To the untrained ear, it can sound almost electronic, like a synthesizer in the trees. Tuawa have a double voice box, which allows them to sing two notes at once, creating harmonies no human could replicate. Maori folklore often describe the tuawa as messengers of the gods, and once you've heard one sing at dawn, it's easy to believe. Fun fact, tuawa are also great mimics. They've been recorded imitating other birds, dogs barking, and even human words when kept in captivity in the past. Imagine a bird dropping a beat and then casually mocking your ringtone. Ecologically, tuawa are heroes. They're vital pollinators for native plants like kauai, flax, and pohutakawa. With their curved beaks and brush-tipped tongues, they spread pollen while drinking nectar, keeping the forests alive. In many ways, they're the hummingbirds of New Zealand, only louder, flashier, and with way more attitude. Despite their beauty, tuawa aren't gentle songbirds. They're fiercely territorial, often chasing other birds, and sometimes each other, out of their feeding areas with aerial chases and aggressive calls. If a tuawa wants the nectar, believe me, it's theirs. Spotting one is easy. Their numbers have rebounded thanks to pest control and reforestation. But hearing one, that's unforgettable. Whether it's a soft, melodic phrase or a sudden robotic click, the tuawa turns every forest into a concert hall. The tuawa isn't just a bird, it's the sound of New Zealand's wild heart. Wild, electric, and impossible to ignore. If the tuawa is the flashy rock star of New Zealand's forests, the bellbird, or korimako, is the choir of pure, ringing notes that makes dawn in Aotearoa feel like a spiritual experience. The name says it all. Bellbirds are renowned for their song, a series of liquid, chiming notes so clear and melodious they sound like bells echoing through the trees. Early European settlers often wrote that New Zealand mornings rang like a cathedral because of these birds. Maori mythology ties the korimako song to the voices of ancestors, and even today, it's hard to stand under a forest canopy at sunrise and not feel like you're hearing something sacred. Bellbirds are small, olive-green songbirds with a slightly curved beak and red eyes that give them a touch of intensity. Their plumage isn't showy, but their beauty comes alive in sound. They feed mainly on nectar, much like the tuawa, and play a crucial role as pollinators, transferring pollen as they flit between flax flowers, kauai, and pohutakawa trees. Without them, many native plants would struggle to reproduce. Fun fact, bellbirds have regional dialects. A bellbird song in one part of New Zealand can sound noticeably different from one in another area, almost like local accents. Imagine traveling a few towns over and finding that even the birds have their own slang. Despite their delicate song, bellbirds are hardy survivors. Their populations declined dramatically in the 19th century due to introduced predators like stoats and cats. But thanks to conservation efforts, they've rebounded across most of the country. Today, they're one of the most common native birds, though hearing their song in a quiet forest still feels like magic. And here's the twist. Bellbirds don't sing alone. They often join the dawn chorus, a natural symphony of two, fantails, robins, and others, blending their chimes into a larger orchestra of sound. It's one of the most unforgettable experiences in New Zealand wilderness. The bellbird might be small and plain in looks, but its voice is extraordinary. It's the sound of peace, resilience, and connection to the land. A living bell that tolls not for endings, but for hope. If the Kia is New Zealand's alpine troublemaker, the Kaka is its forest cousin. Equally loud, equally clever, but living among towering trees instead of snowy peaks. Think of them as the raucous comedians of the bush, filling the forest with chatter, squawks, and mischief. At first sight, Kaka are striking but earthy. Their plumage is mostly olive brown, but when the sunlight hits, you'll see flashes of crimson and orange under their wings and around their bellies. Their hooked beaks and sharp claws are built for climbing, prying, and tearing into bark for sap, grubs, and insects. They also raid nectar from flowers and feast on fruits, making them key pollinators and seed dispersers. But what really makes Kaka unforgettable is their personality. They are social, noisy, and curious. A group of Kaka can turn a quiet forest into a comedy show, complete with whistles, squawks, and uncanny imitations. Some have even been known to mimic human voices and laughter. If Tuawa are the singers and bellbirds are the chimes, Kaka are definitely the stand-up comedians. Fun fact, their Māori name, Kaka, literally means parrot, but locals often joke it sounds like the raucous cry they make echoing through the trees. And trust me, when a flock of Kaka descends, you'll hear them before you see them. Despite their playful energy, Kaka have faced serious threats. Deforestation and introduced predators like stoats and possums nearly wiped them out in many regions. Today, thanks to sanctuaries, pest control, and reintroduction programs, their numbers are recovering. And in some urban areas like Wellington, you can now hear their calls echoing at dawn and dusk once more. Seeing a Kaka swoop between native trees, wings flashing red and gold in the sunlight, feels like the forest itself has come alive. They're clowns, yes, but also caretakers of the ecosystem. Pollinating, dispersing seeds, and keeping the forest buzzing, the Kaka reminds us that nature doesn't always whisper. Sometimes it squawks, laughs, and shows off in a flurry of feathers. And honestly, the forest wouldn't be half as fun without them. Meet the Fantail, or Puwaka Waka, a tiny bundle of energy with one of the biggest personalities in New Zealand's bird world. While many native birds are shy or elusive, the Fantail is the opposite, curious, playful, and always ready to follow you along a forest path like a tiny feathery sidekick. Fantails are small, only about 6 inches long, but they're instantly recognizable thanks to their dramatic tail. When they fan it out, hence the name, it looks like a little handheld fan made of feathers. This Moulin Rouge move isn't just for style. It helps them twist and dart through the air with incredible agility while hunting insects. Their flight is acrobatic and almost theatrical. Fantails flip, hover, and loop as they chase tiny flies, often right around people. In fact, they've learned to trail humans and livestock because our movements stir up insects. Walk through the bush, and chances are a fantail will appear at your shoulder, snapping up bugs from the air like your personal pest control service. Fun fact, fantails have two main color morphs: the common pied version with black, white, and gray plumage, and a darker, all-brown variant that appears in some regions. No matter the color, the oversized tail and cheeky behavior make them unforgettable. Fantails are also chatterboxes. Their constant chee-chee calls add a cheerful soundtrack to forests, gardens, and parks across New Zealand. To Māori, the fantail is both a friendly guide and a messenger of change, sometimes even a sign of death or transition, depending on the circumstances. This dual symbolism only adds to the bird's mystique. Despite their size, fantails are survivors. They can thrive in a wide range of habitats, from dense forests to city backyards. Their adaptability has kept them common even as many other native birds struggle against predators and habitat loss. Watching a fantail dance through the trees feels like pure joy. They're playful, fearless, and surprisingly social. Proof that sometimes the smallest birds leave the biggest impressions. The Pawakawaka isn't just part of the scenery, it's your little travel companion in the wild. A reminder that wonder often comes with wings no bigger than your hand. Among New Zealand's giants like the Kiwi and the Takah, the Rifleman is almost comically tiny. At barely 8 centimeters long, about the size of your thumb, it holds the title of New Zealand's smallest bird. Yet this little green dart, known as Tutipunamu in Maori, is a marvel of survival and speed. The Rifleman gets its English name from the greenish shimmer of its feathers, which early settlers thought resembled the uniform of a rifleman soldier. With olive green plumage, a short tail, and a thin, slightly upturned bill, it may not look flashy, but up close you'll see that iridescent sheen glinting like sunlight on moss. Riflemen are insect specialists. They hop tirelessly up tree trunks and along branches, probing bark and crevices for spiders, beetles, and caterpillars. Their hunting style is so systematic that it's like watching a tiny inspector comb every surface. What they lack in size, they make up in determination. And fast? These birds don't just move, they zip. They're constantly in motion, flitting from tree to tree with a rapid whir of wings. Blink and they're gone. Their restlessness makes them hard to film, but catching a glimpse of their emerald flash feels like finding treasure in the forest. Fun fact, Riflemen belong to New Zealand's most ancient bird family, the wrens, Acanthisididae, which are completely unique to the country. They're living relics of an evolutionary lineage that goes back tens of millions of years. In a way, this tiny bird is a piece of prehistory hiding in plain sight. Riflemen nest in small cavities, crevices, or even old fence posts, weaving moss and feathers into a snug little chamber. Both parents feed the chicks, and sometimes even young from earlier broods return to help, making them one of New Zealand's most cooperative little families. Despite their resilience, Riflemen are vulnerable to introduced predators like rats and stoats, which easily prey on such tiny birds and their eggs. Predator-free sanctuaries have become essential for keeping their numbers healthy. Spotting a Rifleman is like finding the heartbeat of the forest, small, quick, and vital. It's a reminder that you don't need size or grandeur to be extraordinary. Sometimes all it takes is a tiny spark of life, flitting green against the bark of an ancient tree. If the New Zealand forest had a ghost, it would be the Kokako. Nicknamed the wattlebird for the vivid blue wattles at the corners of its beak, this bird is more often heard than seen. Its song is one of the most haunting sounds in the wild, deep, flute-like notes that echo through valleys like a forest spirit calling your name. At first glance, the Kokako doesn't seem flashy. Its plumage is soft, ash gray, with darker wings and tail. The real highlight is its striking sapphire blue wattles that hang at the base of its bill, like nature's jewelry. Combine that with its long legs and gliding leaps through the canopy, and you've got a bird built for stealth, not spectacle. The Kokako's song, though, is unforgettable. Long, resonant notes carry for kilometers, weaving through the bush at dawn. Maori legend tells of the Kokako gifting humans the secret of fire by carrying embers in its legs, perhaps an echo of the way its voice still carries the spark of the forest. Fun fact, unlike many New Zealand birds, Kokako can still fly, sort of. They're poor flyers, preferring to glide between trees rather than take to open skies. This half-flight lifestyle, combined with their curiosity and ground-foraging habits, made them especially vulnerable to predators like stoats and rats. For a long time, the Kokako was close to vanishing. By the 1990s, only a few hundred birds remained. Thanks to intensive conservation, including translocations to predator-free sanctuaries, the population has slowly rebounded, though they're still considered endangered. Spotting one today feels like witnessing a secret being revealed. In the North Island forests where they still thrive, Pureora, Tiurawera, or small offshore sanctuaries, their presence transforms the atmosphere. The trees feel older, the air heavier, the silence filled with anticipation, until that first eerie, beautiful note rings out. The Kokako is more than just a bird. It's a reminder that forests have voices, and some of them sound like echoes from another world. Listen closely and you'll realize you're not just in the bush, you're in the company of a living legend. If the Kokako is the ghost of New Zealand's forests, the Saddleback is its comeback story. Known in Maori as Takah, this bird is dressed like it's wearing a black leather jacket with a fiery orange-red saddle thrown across its back. Bold, loud, and dramatic, the Saddleback looks and sounds like it's here to make an entrance. About the size of a starling, Saddlebacks are easy to recognize once you know their colors. Jet black plumage covers the head and wings, but across the back stretches a bright chestnut patch, the saddle that gives them their name. Add in their loud, chattering calls and the fleshy red wattles at their beak, and you've got a bird that's hard to ignore. But here's the twist. Just a century ago, the Saddleback almost disappeared. Introduced predators like rats and cats wiped them out on the main islands, leaving only a few tiny populations on offshore sanctuaries. For years, many feared the Takah would vanish entirely, another tragic entry in New Zealand's long list of extinct native birds. Then came conservation. Thanks to careful translocations and predator-free reserves, the Saddleback has staged one of the most inspiring recoveries in New Zealand bird history. Today, while still considered vulnerable, they're back in dozens of sanctuaries and even some mainland predator-proof forests. Hearing their noisy calls in restored bush is like listening to hope itself shout from the treetops. Fun fact, Saddlebacks are messengers of the forest in Maori tradition. If one hopped around you from branch to branch, it was considered a sign. Their curious, sometimes cheeky behavior only reinforces that mystical reputation. Ecologically, they're also crucial. As insect hunters and fruit eaters, Saddlebacks help keep forest ecosystems in balance, dispersing seeds and controlling insect populations. Where Tik return, the forest comes alive again, not just in sound, but in function. Seeing a Saddleback today is a double thrill. First, because of their striking appearance and boisterous personality. And second, because every sighting is proof that extinction isn't always the final chapter. With enough effort, some birds really do get a second chance. The Saddleback isn't just wearing a saddle, it's carrying the weight of survival and riding triumphantly into New Zealand's conservation success stories. If New Zealand's birds were jewels, the stitchbird, or hihi in Maori, would be a rare golden spark. Barely bigger than a sparrow, this nectar-loving bird once fluttered through forests across the North Island. Today it survives only thanks to decades of conservation, making every glimpse of a stitchbird feel like striking gold. The hihi's name comes from its call, a sharp tsitsi that early settlers thought sounded like the snip of a needle and thread. Males are unmistakable, glossy black heads, white shoulder patches, and a blazing yellow-orange breast that glows like sunlight caught in feathers. Females are plainer, but still elegant in subtle browns with a dash of yellow. Stitchbirds are nectar feeders, hovering like hummingbirds to sip from flax, kauai, and other native flowers. They also eat insects, especially during breeding season, when protein is vital for chicks. Their feeding behavior makes them important pollinators. Tiny winged gardeners keeping New Zealand's forest plants thriving. But beauty nearly wasn't enough to save them. By the late 1800s, habitat destruction and predators had wiped hihi from almost everywhere, leaving a single refuge, Little Barrier Island, Hauturu. For decades, that population clung to survival. Only in the late 20th century did conservationists begin carefully reintroducing hihi to predator-free sanctuaries. Fun fact, the stitchbird is one of the very few birds in the world to practice face-to-face mating, like humans. Scientists still aren't sure why, but it's just one more quirk that makes them fascinating. Today, thanks to sanctuaries like Zealandia and Wellington, Tiritiri-Matangi near Auckland, and Kapiti Island, stitchbirds are slowly recovering. Still, they remain endangered, with fewer than a few thousand individuals alive. Spotting one is a magical experience. The flash of yellow in the forest canopy, the quick buzz of wings, and the sharp call that sounds like nature's sewing machine, all remind you how fragile and how resilient life can be. The stitchbird isn't just a survivor, it's a symbol of persistence. A tiny ember of color that almost went dark, now glowing again in New Zealand's forests. Meet the Carreru, New Zealand's very own forest heavyweight. Imagine a pigeon, then supersize it, paint it in shimmering greens and purples, and give it the appetite of a vacuum cleaner. That's the Carreru, part clumsy clown, part sacred guardian of the bush. At nearly 20 inches long and weighing up to 1 kilogram, Carreru are big, even by pigeon standards. Their plumage is stunning, iridescent green and bronze on the head and back, snowy white belly, and a pink bill with matching eye rings that give them a stylish, if slightly tipsy look. And tipsy they sometimes are. Carreru feast on fruits and berries, especially native species like Kaka, miro, and koi. During summer, when fruit ferments in the heat, these pigeons have been known to get a little drunk. Picture a giant pigeon wobbling on a branch, then crash landing into a bush. It's hilarious, and 100% Carreru. Fun fact, while other birds eat only small fruit, Carreru can swallow giant berries whole. They're the only bird left in New Zealand capable of dispersing the large seeds of many native trees. Without Carreru, those forests wouldn't regenerate. In other words, their clumsy feasting literally keeps the ecosystem alive. They're also culturally significant. To Maori, the Carreru, kukupa, or cuckoo, is a taonga, or treasured species, often featured in traditional stories. Its presence is both practical and spiritual, a bird that connects people to the forest rhythms. For centuries, Carreru were hunted for meat and feathers, which caused numbers to plummet. Today, hunting is banned, and thanks to habitat protection and predator control, populations are stable in many areas. Still, they remain vulnerable to stoats, cats, and habitat loss. Spotting one is unforgettable. First, you'll hear a heavy whoosh as it takes off. Carreru sound less like they're flying and more like they're launching themselves into existence. Then you see it, perched like a feathery bowling ball on a fragile branch, colors flashing in the sun. The Carreru isn't just a pigeon. It's a forest gardener, a cultural icon, and proof that even the clumsiest birds can hold the fate of an entire ecosystem in their crop. If New Zealand birds had a trickster, it would be the weka. Imagine a chicken that can't fly, powered by pure curiosity and with a bad habit of stealing anything shiny or edible. That's the weka. Part rail, part rascal, all attitude. Weka are chunky brown, ground-dwelling birds about the size of a chicken, with strong legs, short wings, and a determined look that says, "Your sandwich is now mine." They can't fly, but they're excellent runners and surprisingly sneaky. They're famous for their boldness. Unlike shy birds that scatter at the sight of humans, weka often walk right up to you, head tilted, sizing up whether your shoelaces, camera strap, or snack might be worth stealing. Campers in New Zealand know the drill. If you leave food unattended, don't blame the possums, blame the weka. Fun fact, weka aren't just pranksters. They're also skilled survivors. They eat pretty much anything: fruit, insects, snails, lizards, small mammals, and yes, the occasional picnic lunch. They've even been known to prey on other birds' eggs and chicks. Opportunistic? Absolutely. In Maori culture, the weka was both useful and symbolic. Traditionally hunted for food and prized for their strong feathers and bones, they also appear in legends as trickster figures, always clever, always meddling. But their curiosity has a downside. Being flightless and ground-dwelling makes them easy prey for introduced predators like stoats, cats, and dogs. Populations have declined sharply in many areas, and some subspecies are endangered. Predator-free islands and sanctuaries are now critical safe havens for them. Despite this, weka remain icons of cheeky charm. They're often spotted along trails, poking around campsites, or strutting through gardens like they own the place. Watching one drag off a hiker's sock or investigate a tent flap is equal parts hilarious and exasperating. Seeing a weka in the wild is a reminder that not all birds impress with beauty or song. Some win you over with personality. And the weka has that in spades, bold, mischievous, and utterly unashamed of being the feathered pickpocket of New Zealand. If penguins had a VIP section, the hoi-ho, or yellow-eyed penguin, would be on the guest list. Known as one of the rarest penguin species on Earth, this bird isn't just special to New Zealand. It's practically a living treasure. First, the look. Hoi-ho are medium-sized penguins, about 24 inches tall, with sleek slate gray backs, creamy chests, and, most distinctively, piercing yellow eyes framed by a pale yellow band that sweeps across the head like golden eyeliner. At sunset, their gaze feels almost otherworldly, like a character from a fantasy novel. But while they look mysterious, their voice is less flattering. The Maori name hoi-ho literally means noise shouter, and with good reason. Their call is a loud, braying shriek, something between a donkey and a car alarm. Not exactly romantic, but unmistakable in the coastal forests and beaches of southern New Zealand. Fun fact, unlike many penguins that gather in massive colonies, hoi-ho are antisocial. They nest in hidden forest clearings or coastal scrub, with each pair fiercely guarding its patch of land. Think of them as penguin introverts who really value personal space. Sadly, their uniqueness comes with fragility. The hoi-ho population has plummeted due to habitat destruction, introduced predators, disease, and fishing bycatch. Today, fewer than 5,000 remain, mostly on the Otago Peninsula, Stewart Island, and the subantarctic Auckland Islands. Conservationists are working tirelessly with predator control, habitat restoration, and even penguin hospitals to keep them alive. Watching a hoi-ho emerge from the surf is unforgettable. They waddle ashore in the fading light, eyes glowing gold against the twilight, and disappear into the greenery like spirits of the land. The yellow-eyed penguin isn't just a bird. It's a symbol of resilience, a rare, fragile thread in New Zealand's natural heritage. Spotting one in the wild feels like being let in on a secret, a noisy, eye-glowing, penguin-shaped secret. And there you have it, 15 of New Zealand's strangest, boldest, and most unforgettable birds. From the flightless Kiwi sneaking through the night, to the cheeky waka rummaging through your backpack, to the haunting cry of the yellow-eyed penguin echoing along a wild southern beach. These birds aren't just wildlife. They're storytellers, tricksters, guardians, and living relics of an ancient land. New Zealand is famous for its breathtaking landscapes, but it's the feathered life that gives those landscapes a voice. Some of these species were thought lost forever. Others exist nowhere else on Earth, and together they remind us how fragile and how magical a truly unique ecosystem can be. So which bird captured your imagination the most? Was it the clownish Carreru, the genius Takah, or the ghostly Kokako? Drop your pick in the comments. We'd love to see which of these Kiwi country legends won your heart. If you enjoyed this journey through New Zealand's skies and forests, don't forget to like this video, share it with a fellow nature nerd, and subscribe for more feathered adventures from around the globe. Until next time, keep your eyes open, your binoculars ready, and remember, sometimes the strangest creatures are the ones closest to home.